guys, my name is Javier and welcome back to Tool Craze, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Ryobi 18V cordless 3/8 inch crown stapler, and this is model P317. In this video we're going to be taking a look at its features and we're going to take a look at its performance and see how it fares. So this particular model uses your very common Arrow T50 style staples that are just about everywhere and similar to what you would use in one of these hand manual powered staplers. And what's interesting about this unit is that it actually uses compressed air technology to drive staples, and that's very similar to what their older, or actually they're not so old, nail guns use. Theirs is called Air Strike, and on this unit they actually call it compression drive technology. So I'm not exactly sure how similar the technology or how different this is compared to some of their Air Strike nailers, but it does use compressed air. And so going over some of its features, it does have on the back and on the top a drive force indicator. This works similarly to other nail guns where you can actually choose how deep or how far out you want your nails or your staples to be, although it does it a little bit differently. Instead of actually controlling how far the hammer or the anvil actually drives, what this does is it controls how much force is being used to drive these staples. And you have a little window right here that you can dial in or out. It's got the knob on the back, and you can dial it down all the way to the minimum at the bottom or all the way to the max at the top, if you want those staples to be flush, sub-flush, or actually stick out just a little bit. In the front, it actually has a safety feature, so it will not fire any staples if you just press the trigger. You actually have to press this into the material for it to set staples, which is a nice safety feature. So you're not going to be able to aim it at your face or at your buddy's face trying to be funny. Nothing's going to come out, nothing's going to happen. So, good job, Ryobi. And taking a look at the front of the unit, we got the magazine, and this is the new and improved magazine. And the reason I say new and improved is because let's take a look at something that I've actually grown up with, and this is an older model, and this is how you take out the magazine. You basically got to press in, you got to press down, you got to pull this magazine out, and you grab your stick of staples, you pop it in there, and then you got to put this little pin just right or else it won't go in. As you can see here, it's giving me some trouble. Okay, there it goes. And you press in, press up, and you release, and it's ready to go. This is basically what I grew up with. It's not that big of a deal, but this is a lot easier, as I'll show you right now. Basically, you pinch right here, pull it back out, and with your stick of staples, you can place your staples up here on the top. Now, this is a little bit differently than the other unit, as you would not place your staples in the back area. Now you could place them because it kind of makes it seem like they can go there, and they'll actually close up and you can see your staples right there in the magazine, although that's not where they go. And then I'll show you right here. See, nothing's actually coming out. So that's not where they go. So just keep that in mind. The staples go up here at the top, they go in facing down, and then you just close and pop this back into place. So that's how it goes, and it's very simple. And then on this left side you got your window, your magazine window, so you can see. So it gives you basically a rough idea of how many staples you have left. And a couple of downsides right here is that even though you have the window on both sides, you can only, for some reason, you could only see the staples on this left-hand side. As for me, I'm a right-handed user, so it's not really a big deal, as I could just face it towards me and I can see the staples right here. Not a problem. But if you're a left-handed user, if you're trying to look at this side, which is the side that you would turn to face you, you do not see any staples there for some reason. And you have to turn it kind of a little bit awkward for you if you're left-handed, so you would be able to see that magazine. Another downside is that the magazine actually doesn't go all the way up to the top. So once you get right here, you're not going to be able to see how many staples you have left, which is in the range of about, I don't know, 15, 10 staples, and you won't know exactly how many you have left, but you'll have a rough idea that you are low and it's time to swap out and refill sticks of staples. Next on the list is it does drive a little bit differently, and I'll show you right here. Now just pay attention to how this drives. This is their 15 gauge nailer. Did you notice that? If not, here we go again. So what's going on here is when I press the trigger, it actually takes about maybe roughly a second to actually compress that air and then push out the nailer, the staples. It's not exactly what I would call slow, but there is a delay. Now notice this unit. Check this out. That is basically instantly. There's no delay. As soon as I press that trigger, bam, it goes in there. And actually the performance is pretty good. I remember a longtime reader from the Tool Craze website, his name is Glenn. He was actually commenting about this unit when I did the news article, and he was saying that he has the older blue model and that it's not very powerful according to what he says, and he was hoping that this new model would be a lot better. And as you can see, I drove about, what is that, 6 staples, and there's a few that are actually flush. You got, let's see, 1, 2 that are flush. You got 4 that are just barely above the surface, and that's at a little bit less than half of the driving force, so that's actually pretty good. And let's bump this all the way up to the max just to see how it does. And we'll do that. Okay. So it drives in pretty fast, no effort. And actually most of these are flush. I mean, they're actually a little bit sub-flush underneath the surface of this 2x4, so that's actually pretty strong. And then we'll dial this down all the way to the minimum just to see how that does. And we'll test it out. And as you can see, I put down maybe 7 or so, and yeah, they're just above flush. And this is actually what I would prefer, because if I'm installing insulation, I would not want this to be flush with the material, because if you did, or if it went sub-flush, it would actually tear the paper, and which would ruin some of that grip, the staple grip. So this would actually be perfect for me. As you can see, there was no lack of power, no lack of performance. It actually did pretty well. Not that long ago, I reviewed the Milwaukee hand stapler, and just take a look at this. Notice that it has this in the front, and it's got this in the back. Now you're asking me, why am I bringing this up? Well, there's a reason for that. This is actually a little bit less consistent when driving staples down. You're going to have some that are sticking out, they're improperly placed, and that's where these come in. If it didn't get placed in there correctly, you're going to have to pull it out with the nail puller. If it didn't go in all the way, if it's sticking out too much, then you could just hammer it back into place. So that's why you needed that, which was a great feature for these type of staplers, because they're not very consistent. Now, as you can see here, I've actually used this more than, this isn't the first time I've used this. I've used this for a lot more staples. It's very consistent. You do not need a nail puller. You do not need to hammer them back in. It's extremely consistent. If you want it to just stick out just a little bit beyond flush, so it grips that paper just right, I would actually just leave it on the minimum setting. That actually does a pretty good job. If you do want it to go flush or sub-flush, then yeah, you can go in the medium or the maximum settings. So that's a positive. What are the negatives? Well, this weighs by itself 3 pounds. 3 pounds isn't that heavy, but of course that's without the battery. Once you install a battery pack, that's going to bring it a little bit more. This is the 4.0 battery, and that brings it up to 4.5 pounds, which is more in line with something like a high torque hammer drill, which usually weighs around 5-6 pounds. This feels more like that in your hands. A lot of people are going to complain that this might actually be a little bit too heavy for them. And they have good reason, since I weighed this. This weighs just under 2 pounds. It's a little bit more than 1.5 pounds. It's 1 pound and 11 ounces. And this is not going to tire you out from being heavy. However, even though this model is heavier, I would much rather prefer the added weight, and it's also a little bit bulkier as well because you have the battery pack sticking out, adding bulk to the bottom. But to me, in my personal opinion, this is a much better compromise, because I would rather have the added size, the added weight any day of the week, because look at how easy this is. You just press that down and it installs staples on demand. If you look at something like this, you gotta squeeze that trigger. Notice how slow that is. I have to put some effort into it, but that does require effort. You will get tired out after so many staples set. This you will not, because it's a lot easier pressing a trigger than it is squeezing that handle. So that is a big advantage over anything else like that. It's also bigger, bulkier, and heavier than something like a pneumatic stapler. But then again, you don't have to you don't have to bring your compressor, you don't have to connect any hoses, any tripping hazards, anything like that. You can run this where there is no power, as you would with a compressor. You would still have to plug that in. Or you're going to need gasoline if you use a gasoline engine compressor. So this is a big advantage. Being battery powered, it's all contained. Everything needed to operate this is built in. Sure, it's bigger and bulkier than a manual powered hand stapler, but it's a lot easier to use. There is a little feature that Ryobi actually includes with this, which is this little attachment right here. They call it the, it's the onboard dual screen wire attachment, and it allows installation that guides staples without penetrating wire or screen. I would assume this is probably for installing something like that chicken wire that you would use. Obviously it's not chicken wire, but that wire that you use for installing the installation of stucco when you're putting a fresh coat of stucco. This would be so that, as it says, without penetrating the wire or the screen. Now, I've never installed wire, I've never installed stucco myself, so I don't have any experience on that. I have no opinions, but I'm pretty sure someone that does install something like that type of wire for stucco would appreciate that, or any other similar style uses. It is double-sided, so this end would actually be the end for the wire mesh, and you can rotate it to the different side. And this just has, whoops, it's supposed to go out on that notch, and this has like little spikes right here, and I suppose that's so it doesn't kick back when you're driving staples. But yeah, it's not something that I would need or use, but I'm pretty sure some of you guys would appreciate that. It doesn't have a brushless motor. That's one of the things about Ryobi, is that really they don't have any brushless nailers as of yet. They do have brushless tools such as drills, impacts, stuff like that, but as of right now they don't have any brushless nailers. For that you would have to go to something like Makita, DeWalt, Milwaukee, some of those type of brands. Rigid is another one of those that do have brushless motors. And the benefits of a brushless motor would be it has increased performance and increased runtime. But as you can see with this stapler, it has more than enough performance. It does not need additional performance. As far as runtime goes, it actually does pretty good. According to Ryobi, this is going to lay down over 5,500 staples per charge, and that's using a 4.0 battery. That's actually pretty amazing, considering it's not 1,000, it's not 2,000, it's over 5,500. Now, I haven't tested out that claim, but I wouldn't have any doubt that you would actually get that. So that's pretty good. Another downside about this, it doesn't have that bump fire mode. So if you look at the Milwaukee stapler, which is basically the same brand that makes this, TTI, as they make Ryobi rigid Milwaukee tools, the Milwaukee model does have that sequential and the bump fire modes. This does not. However, I don't find that to be that big of a deal, as check this out. Even though this isn't bump fire, I can press the trigger fast enough that it lays these staples down at a very fast rate. So that's not a big deal. Sure, I would prefer just to hold the trigger down and then just bump it and it would lay them down, but it's not that big of a deal. As far as pricing goes, this is priced right now at $79, so basically $80. This was cheaper than the Milwaukee one, since the Milwaukee one was about 9,900 bucks. But at the time of writing, or actually at the time of making this video, I believe the Milwaukee model is $79. So it does have some of the extra features, like their magazine window actually goes all the way up to here, so you'll know if you're completely empty or not. I'm not sure if it shows on both sides, but it does have that dry fire lockout feature where it will not fire staples if you're out, and it does have that bump fire modes. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you most likely have bought into the Ryobi system and you have plenty of these. So it wouldn't make much sense to go into the Milwaukee model. So even though it does have a little, about a few more features than this model, I would still say that this is fine. It's not much difference. It's not much different than this. This does not have dry fire lockout. It doesn't have bump fire modes. So you're not really missing out much if you're used to using that manual hand-powered stapler. Although you do get the benefit that, look at how easy that is. You just press the trigger and bam, it just lays down a staple. So that's actually pretty nice. I will be putting up the full review on the Tool Craze website if you want to check that out. If anything does come up, I'll update that. So that's basically it for my review. Thank you guys for checking out this review of the Ryobi P317 3/8 inch cordless crown stapler from Ryobi. If you like this video, give this a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe, and also don't forget to check out the Tool Craze website. You're going to see a lot more content on the website. I understand that I don't push out that many videos here on YouTube. That's because I have the website. You're going to see me there daily. You're going to see daily tool news. You're going to see stuff like this. This is not the first time I've actually spoken about this. If you checked out the Tool Craze website, you would have known about this stapler last month. I'm talking about mid-March is when I wrote about it. It might have been February. But yeah, if you had checked out the Tool Craze website, you would have already known about this. Right now, Ryobi's actually been coming out with a lot of new tools. If you want to check out what those new tools are, you might want to check out the Tool Craze website. That's www.toolcraze.net. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Take care.